with passion. Once you see the bigger picture, from the heights all
Thank you all very much for coming. I hereby call to order the 2017 Annual Stockholders Meeting of AboitizPower Corporation. And I now call on the Corporate Secretary to certify the sending out of notices to all stockholders of record as of the close of business on March 31, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I certify that notices for the annual stockholders meeting were sent out on 18/12/2017. Holders of record as of March 31, 2017. Notices of this meeting were also published on April 12 in the Business World, the Philippine Star, and the Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the next item on the agenda. Madam Corporate Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I hereby certify that we have a quorum to conduct this meeting. We have a total of 5,639,475 shares represented in person and 6,829,035,554 shares represented by proxy, which is a total of about 6,834,675,029 shares registered at 10:45 a.m. today. So this constitutes at least a majority of, well, more than a majority of 92.88% of the total outstanding shares of 7,358,604,307 shares as of March 31, 2017, entitled to vote, Mr. Chairman. So more than 2/3 of the total outstanding shares are represented here. This was Mr. Chairman, this was verified and confirmed by the representatives of Luis Cañete and Company, our Board of Election Inspectors.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed to the reading and approval of the minutes of last year's annual stockholders meeting held on May 16, 2016. Copies of the minutes of the previous annual stockholders meeting have been distributed to the stockholders, and a copy was uploaded in the company's website right after the 2016 ASM.
I move that the reading of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on May 16, Mr. Chairman, I move that the reading of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on May 16, 2016 be dispensed with and that the minutes be approved.
Thank you. There's a motion duly made and seconded that the reading of the minutes of the stockholders meeting held on May 16, 2016 be dispensed with and same be approved. Are there any objections to the approval of this motion? There being no objections, the motion is carried. Madam Corporate Secretary, please record the votes in favor of that motion.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman.
We will now proceed with the CEO's report. I call on AboitizPower's Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Edmond I. Aboitiz, to give his report.
I just, on behalf of Tony Moraza, the president of AP, sends his regrets for not being here today. Unfortunately, he's in an important conference in Singapore. So I will be delivering the president's report on his behalf. Fellow shareholders, team members, friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AboitizPower's stockholders meeting. We are pleased to report to you the financial and operating results of your company for 2016. 2016 was a good year for the Philippines. Despite major global events that gripped the world situation and attention and affected businesses and societies across the globe, the Philippine economy remained resilient and managed to grow by 6.8%. Your company closed the year 2016 with consolidated revenues of 89 billion, 5% higher than last year. The increase was largely driven by the first full year operations of Therma South, our 300 megawatt baseload power plant in Davao. Correspondingly, AboitizPower recorded favorable consolidated EBITDA for 2016 of 38 billion, 13% higher year on year. The contributions came mainly from the higher EBITDA contribution from the generation business group, more specifically from the full year operations of ThermoSouth again. Higher sales volume translated to a 14% growth in bottom line to 20 billion in 2016. The generation business group registered an increase of 17% in earnings contributions to 16.3 billion pesos. The distribution business group contributed 3.7 billion, 4% lower year on year. Return on equity remained at healthy levels, registering an increase to 23% from 2015's 21%. Earnings per share increased to 2 pesos and 72 centavos per share from last year's 2 pesos and 39 centavos per share. Moving to operating results, capacity sales of the generation business group grew by 9% to 2,069 megawatts, again due to the increase in the capacity from ThermoSouth. On the distribution business group, electricity sales were also up by 7% year on year to 5.1 billion kilowatt hours. The increase was driven by Visayan Electric, Davao Light, and San Fernando Electric. As we had planned, AboitizPower's strong balance sheet has allowed us to take on additional debt to finance our continued growth, resulting to higher gearing ratios. Our net debt to equity ratio increased to 1.48 times from 0.63 at the end of 2015. In 2016, we completed refinancing transactions for AP Renewables and Headcore Sibulan for 12.5 billion pesos and 4.1 billion respectively. To finance our acquisition of a stake in GN Power, we also took on a bridge loan of $600 million. We expect to pay down this bridging facility with cash flows from AP's operations, as well as a more permanent retail bond we are currently working on. 2016 was a challenging year for the Philippine stock market, impacted by uncertainties in the global markets. But despite the 2% decline in the physics, AboitizPower saw its share price resiliently remain at 41 pesos and 70 centavos per share. Accounting for dividends received, the total shareholder return for the year 2016 was 4%. Taking a 5-year perspective, AboitizPower's total shareholder return was 11% compounded annually for the last 5 years. Last March 2017, your board approved cash dividends of 1 peso and 36 centavos per share, amounting to 10 billion pesos, which is equivalent to and consistent with our policy of paying 1/2 of your company's previous year's net income. In 2016, we saw the first full year effect of the 2 units of ThermoSouth's 300 megawatt Davao baseload power plant, Mindanao's first major power plant in a decade. This is living proof that we can deliver new capacity, totally developed and built by the AboitizPower team. The plant features a cold dome, a modern cold storage facility, as you can see in the slide, that will ensure proper storage of coal as well as the safety and well-being of the surrounding areas by ensuring the absence of coal dust. We are proud of this as it is the first of its kind in Southeast Asia. We also completed the acquisition of significant stakes in 2 Bataan baseload power plants of GN Power. The first is a 604 megawatt plant, of which we will own 66% of And the second one is a 2 by 668 megawatt plant whose first phase is currently under construction and of which we will end up with a 40% holding in. Another highlight was the launching of our first solar power plant, Sacason's 59 megawatt solar plant in San Carlos, Negros Occidental, delivering additional clean and renewable energy to the Visayas grid. While our Indonesian explorations continue for a potential hydro project in central Sulawesi, we recently discontinued slim hole drillings for a potential geothermal plant in East Java because the initial results did not meet our drill risk appetite. Our capacity growth plan is on track. We will continue to execute with excellence and exert all our efforts to reach our goal of attaining 4,000 megawatts of net sellable capacity by 2020. As we speak, we are building over 900 megawatts of capacity. The construction is progressing well and should come in on time and more or less within budget. Although the bulk of our expansion is thermal capacity, your company will continue to expand its renewable portfolio. Aside from the local renewable projects we have in the pipeline, as mentioned earlier, we are currently exploring opportunities overseas. Aside from Indonesia, we are also looking at other potential growth markets such as Myanmar. As we continue to look for opportunities to enhance our energy portfolio, we will also contribute to or continue to implement our strategy of the right mix of energy sources to be able to offer appropriate power solutions at competitive prices and with the least impact on the environment and our host communities. We see a lot of opportunities in the retail side of the business. We look forward to the full implementation of open access as we target 800 megawatts of contracted capacity by 2020. By executing our Gen-Tailor strategy, combined with our new capacities coming in and a well-armed marketing and sales force, we are well positioned to compete in this developing market and provide customers the power to choose their own electricity suppliers. We will also continuously improve our services and continue to further build and strengthen relationships with our contestable customers. On the distribution business, we have partnerships with LGUs and national agencies in place to help bring more investments into our franchise areas and further increase demand. We aim to reach 12 terawatt hours of energy sales to captive customers of our distribution units and end-user contestable customers by 2020. In 2016, we sold approximately 8.1 terawatt hours to these segments of the market. To make sure we continue to deliver quality and reliable power tomorrow, the Distribution Business Group is implementing modernization initiatives to improve reliability, safety, and delivery of electricity to our customers. Last year, your company spent a total of 38 billion pesos in capital expenditures. This year, we have allocated 59 billion to fund our growth plans. Consistent with the Aboitiz Group's belief of creating long-term value for all our stakeholders, we will continue to look for opportunities to enhance our power generation portfolio, expand our retail reach, as well as attract locators in the areas we serve while improving our services. In 2014, we launched a campaign aimed at creating a well-designed, agile, and integrated organization that is fully responsive to current and future needs. We called it 1AP. To achieve this, we designed and developed solutions to address areas for improvement in our internal processes and will implement them in the coming years. We continue to monitor the solutions we put in place to sustain process improvements. These improvements will help the organization as it doubles its efforts to keep its industry position as the landscape becomes more competitive. I'd like to take this opportunity to briefly walk you through our first quarter 2017 results. AboitizPower posted earnings of 4.4 billion pesos for the first 3 months of this year, 13% lower than the comparative period last year. This was due to increased interest expense and depreciation related to our GN Power acquisition, as well as one-off losses related to foreign exchange and some derivatives. Without these one-off items, our earnings actually grew by 4% to 5 billion pesos from higher water inflows of the hydro units and the fresh contributions coming from GN Power Mariveles Power Plant. The generation group contributed 80% of the total earnings, while the distribution group contributed the balance of 20%. Your company has always believed in the importance of adhering to good corporate governance practices as a means of ensuring that we sustain AboitizPower's long-term value creation while at the same time safeguarding the interests of all our stakeholders, always guided by our core values of integrity, teamwork, innovation, and responsibility. In 2016, local and international institutions continue to recognize us not only as one of the best managed companies in the region, but also as a trustworthy organization implementing responsible and sustainable business practices. A unified purpose and brand positioning are among the hallmarks of a high-performing organization. As part of our group-wide efforts, I am pleased to introduce to all of you today our group purpose, to drive change for a better world, and our brand positioning, advancing business and communities, or ABC. Our group purpose is the reason why we do what we do and what greater good we serve. Our brand positioning, on the other hand, is how we will make it happen. We may not have formally articulated our purpose in the past, but our journey has consistently been characterized by a desire to bring about positive change for all our stakeholders. It is no different from what we and those before us have been doing over the last century. Ever since the time of our forefathers, we have always found ourselves leading, influencing, and driving change for the betterment of our fellow Filipinos, our communities, and the nation. We are going to drive change for a better world by advancing business and communities through the various products and services that our business units provide. Each of our business units define the group purpose in ways that are complementary to their respective operational goals. For power, we advance business and communities by providing reliable and ample power supply at a reasonable and competitive price, but equally important, do so with the least possible adverse effects on our environment and our host communities. ABC, advancing business and communities. It is basic. It refers to the building blocks of a better world. Before I end, I'd like to thank all the team members of the AboitizPower Group who helped us deliver on our commitments. And to all of you, our dear shareholders, we thank you for your unwavering trust and confidence in your board and management team. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mucho. Are there any questions with reference to the report of our Chief Executive Officer? Yes.
Good morning. I'm Romeo David of Sharefield. First of all, congratulations. Excellent performance for the year. We just have a simple question. The report did not articulate anything about the business risk or the risk we are facing in the coming year, whether business or political, as to how it would affect Aboitis and our investment. Yes, because it's total risk, because anything could go wrong, whether it be cyber risk or whatever.
Well, I think we're, risk management is actually embedded in not only the holding company and corporate center, but actually in all of our business units. So we take risk management very seriously and have identified our top risks, and we put mitigating initiatives to address each of these. This is actually presented to the board and reviewed by our corporate governance and risk management committee on a regular basis. And we're comfortable that the risks are contained. So I mean, unless you have a specific risk that we can talk about, rest assured, we are trying to anticipate not only risks that we know, but the unknown, and try to see how we can basically protect ourselves to any of these eventualities.
Yes, I'm sure it's well taken care of, as it is reflected in the performance of the company. However, being a shareholder, to help us decide whether to buy, sell, or hold our share, it would be nice if you could share with us what risk the company faces, so that we would be able to make that crucial decision.
Yeah, I could enumerate a whole pile of risks, but I think just perhaps for your peace of mind, we have we have risk appetites. We have yeah, the chairman is actually pointing out. I need to put my glasses. On page 129 of the annual report, there are it describes our management approach, and I think you probably see there some discussion on our risk management philosophy. But we set limits. We want to make sure that we don't make money with overexposing ourselves. So we have a limit, for example, of a risk tolerance of 1 billion pesos from a group perspective. So anything that we see has a risk of 1 billion pesos, we basically cover with either third party, we pass it on. Case in point, for example, is if our plants are down and we're exposed, we have to buy power at the WESM. Since that exposure is more than 1 billion, we actually have business interruption to cover that. So all of this is really taken into account. Things like the competitive landscape, reduced prices. We actually have a philosophy of contracting long-term contracts. So a lot of our capacity is actually contracted, where we are insulated from volatility in market prices. So things like this are really taken into account, by your management, and it's actually being overseen very closely by your board.
Thank you very much. Maybe we could request that in the future meetings, ASM,
Sure, that's a good idea.
You could share with us the risk that a shareholder would have to consider whether to buy, sell, or hold his share.
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration. Thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you for your questions.
Wait. There's another question here.
Regarding your dividend, I think the term you used was consistent with the company's policies. From a layman's point of view, someone who doesn't read in detail the reports, etc., the 136 was a reduced dividend compared to the last 2 years of 166.
Yes, because the company policy is to give 50% of the year's profit in dividends. So if the profit drops, then they...
Well, actually, The policy is to pay one half of the previous year's net income. Over the last few years, because your board felt that we were accumulating more cash than we would deploy in the next couple of years, we gave special dividends. So in the last few years, the difference between the 50% and the 166 per share that we gave was a special dividend, which when it was declared, it was that way. Today, well, you saw that we made some acquisitions. We have a lot of plants that we're building. We have actually funded some of these investments through debt. Your board felt that we should just keep with our policy of 50% of previous year's income and not pay a special cash dividend. And that's why you had a reduction versus last year.
So we're just hoping that next year it will increase again with the special dividend.
Well, I think the intention of really having a policy is that the shareholder, knows what to expect, when he sees our, disclosures on our earnings throughout the year. Now, the special dividend is something that's reviewed depending on, the investment opportunities that the company would want. Because when, we just feel that if we don't have investment opportunities, we will give back more to the shareholder. However, when we do, which we think we do have in the next few years, then we will be consistent with our policy.
Thank you. May we please request the last gentleman to state his name so that we can put you in our records. Can you please kindly state your name and the institution that you represent?
Antonio Garcia,
Yes. You are from?
personal investor.
Yes, a personal investor. I'd like to remind everyone that the question and answer section is going to be carried out in full on section 10 of our agenda today for the sake of order. So we can proceed with the agenda that we have today. Thank you.
Okay, we can move on then. The next item on the agenda is the approval of AboitizPower's annual report and the audited financial statements as of December 31, 2016. Copies of these reports were reproduced in the information statement and distributed to all stockholders.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of AboitizPower's annual report and the audited financial statements as of December 31, 2016.
This motion duly made and seconded for the approval of the annual report and the audited financial statements for the year 2016. There's been no objection, therefore the matter is approved. Madam Secretary, please record the votes in favor of the motion.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman.
The next item on the business of the appointment of the company's external auditor for 2017. The Board Audit Committee recommended the appointment of Stockholders and Velayo as the company's external auditor for 2017. The committee members explained that after their evaluation of SGV's services, they were satisfied with SGV's performance as the company's external auditor. On behalf of the board, I would like to endorse to the shareholders for their approval the appointment of SGV as the company's external auditor for 2017. Any motion to the appointment of SGV as the company's external auditor?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the accounting firm of Goras, Velayo and Company as the company's external auditor for 2017.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion duly made and seconded to approve SGV as the company's external auditor for 2017. Are there any objections to this motion? There being no objections, the motion is approved. Madam Corporate Secretary, please record the votes in favor of the motion.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman.
The next item on the agenda is the ratification of all corporate acts, resolutions, business judgments, management proceedings, and any of all succession, compensation, and management and performance-related decisions entered into and done by the Board of Directors, officers, and management team for the previous year 2016, including all acts up to May 15, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I am very satisfied with the performance of our company and of course, that of the board and the management team Therefore, I move for the ratification of all corporate acts, resolution, business judgment, management proceedings, and any and all successions, compensations, management, and performance-related decisions entered into and done by the Board of Directors, officers, management team for the year 2016, and including all acts up to today, May 15, 2017.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion duly made and seconded for the ratification of all corporate acts, resolutions, business judgments, management proceedings, and any and all succession compensation and management and performance-related decisions entered into or done by the Board of Directors, officers, and management team for the past 2016, including all acts as of today, May 15, 2017. Is there any objection to this approval of this motion? There being no objection, the motion is carried. Madam Secretary, please record the votes in favor of the motion.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman.
Now we will go to the election of directors. We call on the Corporate Secretary to please explain the procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear stockholders, the company's amended bylaws allow any shareholder to nominate candidates for board of directors. Article 1, Section 7 of the company's amended bylaws states that nominations for the election of directors for the succeeding year must be received by the corporate secretary no less than 50 working days prior to the annual meeting of stockholders, except as may be provided by the board of directors in appropriate guidelines that it may promulgate from time to time in compliance with law. So, Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the company's bylaws and the existing nomination guidelines, the shareholders were already given the opportunity to submit their respective nominees for membership until April 21, 2017. We will not accept any nominations for directors from the floor today. Now, as for the nomination of independent directors, the guidelines for the nomination and election of independent directors provide that nominations for independent directors are to be accepted starting January 1st of the year in which an independent director is to serve. So the nominations are closed by February 15 of the same year. So for the record, the shareholders who nominated the independent directors and other directors, these are disclosed, the names are disclosed in the definitive information statement or the SEC Form 20-IS. Copies of these forms have been distributed to the stockholders, uploaded on our company's website, and also distributed in the reception area, for the registration area. So pursuant to the amended bylaws, the directors are elected at each annual stockholders meeting by stockholders entitled to vote. The top 9 nominees who receive the most number of votes are elected pursuant to Section 24 of the Corporation Code. Each director holds a term of 1 year until the next annual election or until his successor is duly elected, unless he resigns, dies, or is removed prior to such election. So after proper screening and approval by the Board Corporate Governance Committee, the following have been determined to be qualified for nomination as directors of the company. So we have you can see it on the screen, Mr. Enrique M. Aboitis, John Ramon Aboitis, Eramon I. Aboitis, Mr. Antonio Moraza, Mr. Mikel A. Aboitis, Mr. Jaime Jose Y. Aboitis. And the following persons have also been nominated to be qualified for have been determined to be qualified for nomination as independent directors. Mr. Romeo L. Bernardo, Mr. Alfonso Uy, Mr. Carlos C. Ejercito.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and to everyone in the room. Since the nominees, I believe that the nominees are qualified and highly competent, I would like to move the election of the following as members of the Board of Directors. For the directors, Mr. Enrique M. Aboitis, Mr. John Ramon Aboitis, Mr. Eramon I. Aboitis, Mr. Antonio R. Moraza, Mr. Mikel A. Aboitis, and Mr. Jaime Jose Y. Aboitis. For the independent directors, Mr. Romeo L. Bernardo, Mr. Alfonso A. Uy, and Mr. Carlos C. Ejercito.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion duly made and seconded for the election of the 9 nominees mentioned as members of the Board of Directors. Is there any objection to this motion? There being no objection to the motion and there are no other nominees to the board, I request the Corporate Secretary to record a unanimous vote for all 9 named nominees except as otherwise indicated in the proxy forms received by the Corporate Secretary. I hereby declare the nominees as elected directors for the term 2017-2018. And on behalf of the other newly elected directors, I would like to thank you all for your trust and confidence in electing us to the board.
Duly noted, Mr. Chairman. We will flash on the board the results of the voting of directors, which is based on persons present and shares represented by proxy.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other matters that anybody in the body would like to take up at this point?
Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open for your questions. If you have a question, please raise your hands. And then if you're recognized, you can go up to the microphone here in the center. Please don't forget to state your name and the institution that you represent for our records. And then the name of the person that you are addressing your question to, and then you can ask your question. So the floor is now open.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adjournment of the meeting.
I second the motion.
Did we give enough time for everybody to ask a question? I'm just checking, and just in case, just in case. I mean, as in basketball, you have the last 2 minutes. So I just want to make sure. Yes, there's a gentleman over here. We'll have to hold that motion for a while.
Your name, sir?
Attorney Pacifico Tacob. I understand that the meeting for the holding company will be held at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Can the board see to it that next stockholders meeting for this company and the holding company be held one after the other with not so much time to be wasted? You see, we'll have to wait. Some of us who are stockholders of the holding company have to wait for the stockholders meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And you see, we have to go home to San Juan or wherever else in the city. If you could see to it that these meetings of this company and the holding company be synchronized in order that we will not be unnecessarily spending our time waiting for the meeting of the next company. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very good suggestion. I mean, there may be a little bit of logistics that we're going to have to figure out. We normally have board meetings in between, but maybe we can schedule something where it gives us enough time to also, prepare the place for the next meeting. But thank you very much for that suggestion.
I think also you have to understand that the 2 companies are 2 different public companies, and therefore we have to follow the procedures. But definitely, we will study it. Thank you very much for your suggestion. Okay. Any other comments or any other questions? Yes.
So please kindly state your name and affiliation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Romeo G. David, Sheffield. Basically, I think really commendable the AboitizPower companies in the Aboitiz Group. Efforts towards good governance. I really think you're doing very, very good. I think 5-star if there's such a thing. However, may I suggest, with all the efforts and that our personnel who join us to expedite, to make, to facilitate our meetings, also identify themselves and the proxies they hold. This has been already adopted by some other companies, so that it puts everybody on the same footing. You know, it's just a procedural suggestion.
Oh, okay, so you want to say that anybody who has a motion, who makes a motion,
Has to
to identify themselves and to state how many shares they have or proxy?
Not necessarily how many shares, but whether they're shareholders themselves,
Okay,
or they are proxies of whatever
Okay.
organization, so that it could be also properly recorded in the minutes of the meeting, so that in the succeeding minutes, all the questions that were raised on the floor or the issues will be reflected in the minutes, so that we could review them properly.
yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that suggestion. We will look into it. Yeah.
Questions?
Okay. There was a motion and it has been seconded. And if there's no other objection, therefore the meeting is hereby adjourned. I now request that the ASM Secretariat to flash the screen the votes recorded for each item submitted for approval as verified by our Board of Election Inspectors. On behalf of the newly elected Board of Directors and the corporation, I want to thank all of you for your attendance, and please help yourself to some refreshments. Again, maraming salamat.
By way of ending, we are going to play for everybody here today the video launching our new purpose and brand positioning for your viewing pleasure.
Since the beginning of time, we have constantly been in search of a better life, making use of whatever we have to try and improve our lives. Creating, inventing, building, innovating. It is this same passion for progress that has helped shape Aboitis today, a company that drives change for a better world.
Aboitiz's Better World encapsulates everything we stand for as a company, going beyond profitability and looking for ways to integrate progress with environmental and societal stewardship. But in order for us to move on to the next level, we must relearn our ABCs and use our passion for better ways to advance business and communities.
You can't talk about the future without talking about sustainability. Although this idea is nothing new to Aboitis, this new positioning is meant to be more outward-looking. And just like the alphabet, which is the basic element of most languages, this too shall serve as the fundamental building block upon which our entire company and all our subsidiaries will operate on. In power, we will make it our responsibility to advance business and communities by providing reliable and ample power supply at a reasonable and competitive price. But more importantly, do so with the least possible adverse effects on our environment and our host communities. In banking and financial services, advancing business and communities means enhancing financial supply chains by providing smart banking solutions that will elevate lives and fulfill the dreams of the communities we serve. In food, it's about developing long-lasting partnerships with our customers and working together with them to promote sustainable livelihoods for the end users of our products. In land, we will build deliberately designed residential, commercial, and industrial communities that will provide people with a better way of living. And in infrastructure, We will play a key role in nation building by becoming a leader in innovative infrastructure solutions in core sectors, uplifting the lives of millions of Filipinos.
Aside pa po sa ibang mga gandang gawa ng Aboitis, gusto ko rin pong magpasalamat at nabigyan ako at iba pang mga batang tulad ko ng pagkakataon na makapag-aral at mairepresenta ang Pilipinas sa labas ng bansa. Dahil po sa tulong ninyo, hindi na po malayang matupad ang pangarap ko na maging isang scientist at makatulong sa aking bansa. Maraming salamat po. Atin po ang panalong to.
I think what's really important is that we keep our commitment to being a truly sustainable and environmentally conscious enterprise. We really have to protect and look after our communities because the entire planet depends on it, not just us. That is the true essence of doing well by doing good. And in order for us to be successful, we have to do this together. Each and every single one of us, we are all accountable.
Advancing business and communities. It's basic to everything Aboitis.
Thank you everyone for your kind attention. While enjoying lunch, may we request that you fill out the survey forms that we have passed around. This will help us conduct a better stockholders meeting next year. Your thoughts are very important to us and we would love to hear back from you. So have a good lunch, everyone.
We come from so many places, so many parts, so many faces. We walk so many paths, and yet our way is one. With passion we can bring together all the possibilities. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh. Through the world of Aboitis, we can find a better way for a brighter tomorrow. We can find a better way to excel, serve, and lead each day. We can find a better way to better the example with passion for the best. Better ways for a better day. Better ways for a better day. Better ways for a better day.